Welcome back to X Figure Reviews. In front of me is the Marvel Select Beast. When I first saw this figure, I wasn't too impressed by it, to be honest. But then I saw him in person, and I thought he looked much better. So the photos and the things, it doesn't really do him justice. I'll say that much. I was excited for this figure because we've been getting a lot of 90s X-Men costumes. We don't really have a more modern release of a 90s Beast. The last one we got was the Toy Biz, which was almost a decade ago. So really cool that we got this figure. Does he fit in with Marvel Legends? We'll see. I do size comparison later on. So let's get into it. He comes with a few accessories, not a lot, but some, including this diorama, the backdrop here. It's supposed to be the Danger Room. If you have other Marvel Select figures that are X-Men, you'll know. This is exactly what you would expect. It folds out just like the other ones, the way it pegs in. The difference is his has these poles. You see, they just peg into the back. Now, what I will say, the top, they have this big pole here that I have in my hand. The top pegs in, but the bottom actually does not peg in. So it's a little obnoxious. When you put it in, it's very loose. Then you have this little pole here. Both sides of it do peg in. There is a certain way to do it. The bottom one is a semicircle. It's not a full circle. So that's how you know. See that? So that's how you know to peg it in correctly. It is really cool that they put these pipes there. He's known to be agile. You can make him swing from them. But like I said, if I flick the bottom of this pole, you can see it just wiggles there. It's obnoxious. It doesn't hold. I don't understand why they didn't give some kind of peg or place to make that stick. There is, for sake of size comparison, inside the display. You can see Beast does take up majority of the display. He is a beast, right? So he's going to be big. He does come with some hands as well. He has two sets. He has the pair that are on him. I'll get a better look at those later on. And then he has a pair of these gripping hands. And these are specifically for the poles in the back. And they do support his weight, or his left hand supports his weight. You can see it's a little tighter. That being said, when I slide it onto the pole, it's a pain in the butt to even get it on there. You got to warm up the hand. I'm actually afraid I'm going to break the pole because it feels kind of fragile, or that I'm going to break his fingers or his nails in particular. So that's really lame, all right? I do understand why it's so tight, and the fact that it is so tight means it supports his weight. But his other hand is not as tight. So I wish they would have made both hands really tight, to be honest with you. I don't understand why one hand supports his weight and the other one doesn't. The other hands he has are open, and they are like individual. It's not like carbon copies of each other, which you see sometimes when they have sets of hands. Really nice, and the detail is really cool. You can see it. The fur, the claws, they have this glossy paint, but they also have this very natural, like, brittleness looking to. I don't know. It's really cool. They just look very realistic. Looking at the figure itself, you can see everything is sculpted on. The hair, the X on the belt, everything looks fantastic. Aesthetically, this is a marvelous beast. Let's be real. The fur, the paint on it, the X sculpted on. These little creases in his uniform are sculpted on. I think it looks a little weird to me sometimes, but it's not too weird. I do think it drags a little too much attention. We have the toes painted just like the hands, right? So you have a glossy, but very almost like natural looking. It's kind of it's cool what they've done here. The paint is really fantastic on this guy. There's not too many. I don't really have any paint mishaps except on the yellow belt. It just is scratchy. So, here's the face, and I really do dig this face sculpt. When I first saw it, it didn't necessarily sell the figure for me, but in person it looks much better. The only thing is it is very vicious looking, which I'm okay with. I like me a vicious beast. Here, like you see some of the scuffing I was talking about in the yellow belt. Putting him down, and we'll go over some articulation, because what I will say is, while his face is very vicious, you can't really get him in an active pose like any Marvel Select. Looking up, using his head, he goes up that much, which is not at all. His Head can look down that much, and of course it can rotate. It's the 21st century after all. His arm can go all the way around, but if you lift it up, it only goes up that much. So that's really disappointing, and that's because of the fur, right? That's sculpted on his shoulder. So I understand, but nonetheless disappointing. He's got the bicep swivel, single jointed elbow, and it does not reach 95 degrees. So that is disappointing. He's supposed to be agile and flexible, and he's not, very much not. His wrist is on a ball joint, but you can't really put his wrist back. You know, you can bend it in, but not out because of the fur that's sculpted onto the back of his hand. So once again, it kind of ruins any kind of posability you could get with him climbing the poles. His arms are not very flexible. His ab crunch is really good. Can't really go back, but he can go forward a lot, which is good because you want this beast to be hunching, because especially in the 90s era, he was usually hunched over like that. So really cool that he can do that. There's no waist articulation at all. Everything is in the chest. Okay. The legs, another disappointment. You can't get 90 degrees. This is as far up as he can go. Okay. And back, he can't go back at all. And he can go to the side, but once again, really disappointing. Okay. It's like the Venom Marvel Select, you know, if you have that figure. Or honestly, it's just like the Beast Marvel Legends from Toy Biz, where you know, you look at the joints, you see how it works. Now, he does have the thigh swivel. He does have double jointed knees, which is fantastic. You can get everything you need out of the legs, except his ankles, the ball joint on there, he can point his toe and everything, but it doesn't seem like, see, he can only bend it up that much. He can bend it back a little bit more. And he does have an ankle pivot, but it seems to be a little weird to me. I can't really place why. It always has to be at an angle. I think that's what it is. You can't just kind of like rock it to the side unless it's going to be at some kind of angle. He does have peg holes at the bottom, and the distribution stuff on the bottom of his left foot. So that's it. Articulation wise, like I said, you know, it's a little disappointing. I was really hoping that, I keep waiting for the day Marvel Select's gonna blow me away with a figure, right? You know, I think they really did a really good job on the Colossus and whatnot. This figure really needed articulation, especially since they give you those poles that he can hang from. It just doesn't really work as well as I would like it to, and I really want to like it. As far as size comparison, here's a Bucky cap. So you can see Beast, you know, they are scaled differently. So if you don't know that, you know, Marvel Select is the more 7 inches and Marvel Legends more 6 inches. So here he is next to the 90s Cyclops. So if you put them together, you can see Beast is a little too big. I say a little, but really he's just too big. Don't be fooled into thinking, you know, Beast is supposed to be bigger. He's actually shorter than Cyclops. His height's only 5'11". For Legends Hyperion body mold, you can see he's still much taller. You know, unfortunately, I do not have another Marvel Select figure in my possession right now. I do own them. They're just not in my house. So I apologize for that. But what I will say is this Beast will fit in nicely with other Marvel Select. I will say, scale-wise, he still just seems a bit off. Like, he's a little bit too lanky. But definitely will fit in and look nicely. You know, honestly, especially, I think he, you know, the Nightcrawler has that realistic look, and so does this Beast. I think that's kind of a good way to compare it if you have that Nightcrawler figure. What really just sucks about this figure is, you know, they set him up to succeed with his articulation. You know, give him these bars he can hang himself from, but then you go and try to do it, and you can't. So it's kind of what I've grown to expect from Diamond Select, I'm going to be honest. But like I said, I keep waiting for the day where they just wow and awe me, you know? They're going to get it right one of these days for sure. Just not today. As far as accuracy goes, I think that's one thing where this figure kind of takes a hit too, is it's a stylistic choice, I think. This is a much more humanoid Beast than we're used to seeing for the 90s. And he has been drawn, he's been drawn that way in some like art, but not like in the comic panels that I've seen. Does it make sense? And I'll throw up some reference photos, of course. But usually when I think of 90s Beast, I think more of like an ape or like a gorilla. You know what I mean? That's usually how I see his body. You know, shorter legs, bigger arms. His arms seem a little skinny. His limbs just seem lanky. You know, and it really, uh, I'm not a fan of that. I really would have liked to have seen bigger biceps and maybe shorter legs just a little bit. Uh, all in all, I do think this is a solid figure. The X scale, he is an 82. Okay, so if you're really into beasts and you know of a smart way to display them, I think you'll be satisfied with your purchase for sure. But honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if Hasbro releases a new Marvel Legends beast, and I definitely suspect it would be better than this one. Now, the detail won't be there like the fur, I imagine, but the articulation will be there, and he'll probably be in a better scale than the Marvel Select. So that is my review of this beast. Let me know what you think of it. Like, subscribe, and thanks for watching.